members of the public, we have voted our own judge to take office right now. Please come up and take your place on the judge's chair, and we will continue with business from there. Thank you. Please wait now.
You witnesses. Yeah, it's just instructed you.
Sorry, guards, you've been requested by the court to remain here to facilitate the arrest of Kevin Kilrain, who is masquerading as a judge of the district court. I'd like it noted for the record, please, that all of the guards have exited the courtroom.
I am asking you the order that McAlin got in the High Court to prevent Fintan Murphy from appearing today. I am asking you please to vacate that order on the grounds that it wasn't served properly and that it is an illegal document. That nobody has the right, not even the DPP, to vacate this order. So I'm asking you to reinstate the order, please. Will you reinstate the order?
I'm reinstating the order.
Hold on a minute.
We need a couple of men up here, please, to make sure that there's no being attempts to physically remove our judge, our public judge that we've appointed.
And I'm asking you to issue a warrant for the arrest of Detective Joe McKenna, Fintan Murphy, County Registrar, Peter Hanley, Sergeant Peter Hanley, and Judge Kilrain.
Don't get us to leave the building now when the fire cars fire out there. I know, but that's what, because there's stand that was going to vacate the building now.
But based on what I've heard previously, I think it's only right.
That's what he's saying, everyone's clear the building now. You just have to business.
Absolutely.
No, guys, don't. It's a trick. It's a trick, guys. Sorry. Yes, if there is a fire, if there's a real fire, we'll go and sorry. No. Please get things out.
Why are the guards calling out when there's a fire?
Everyone else, come on. Fire off. I know. Fire alarm. Everyone else. Yeah, we're going now.
Well, it's been an interesting day today. History was actually made today, but unfortunately it wasn't all good. Firstly, in my own case, I was trying to relaunch the summons against Garda Sgt Peter Hanley, who again did not turn up today at the court. This is the second time now. Despite my best efforts, Judge Kevin Kilrain kept picking on a technicality, which I explained to him was basically the fault of the court service. They were misleading me as to what had to happen. And I said, okay, let's adjourn it and I'll issue the summons again to get the man in. The long and the short of it was Judge Kilrain refused to reissue the summons. We challenged him. We said, this isn't fair. You're setting a new precedent. You're going against previous rulings by other judges. He would have none of it. And he just moved on to the next case. Then Colm stood up. And the first thing he did was he asked the Gardaí to affirm their oath with a simple nod of the head. Just say that they weren't going to arrest us all again today, they weren't going to assault us, as has happened previously. Not a single guard there was prepared to affirm that oath. In particular, Superintendent Joe McKenna, who is the presiding officer there today, refused to answer any of our questions in this regard. Then when Judge Kilrain accepted bogus legal documents that were delivered to Colm last night at bedtime, and very interestingly, all our phones, those 3 or 4 of us that were trying to communicate with each other afterwards, all our phones shut down. They wouldn't function properly. We couldn't make or take calls afterwards. A very interesting coincidence. Anyway, Judge Kilrain was clearly very familiar with these documents despite the pretense of having just been handed them. He knew exactly what the contents were. We challenged him on that as well. And we pointed out several anomalies in the paperwork, apart from the fact that apparently a judicial review was held in the High Court without notifying Colm, who is the prosecutor in this case. He wasn't even told about it. This happened during the holidays. A High Court judge issued some document purporting to be grounds to stop this process going ahead. And it's very important to note here, folks, this is the first time in the history of the Irish state that the right of private prosecution by an individual to take a prosecution against someone else has been stopped even before it got into court. Fintan Murphy wasn't there again today. We subpoenaed Sergeant Peter Hanley as a witness as well. He wasn't there today. But every time we asked Judge Kilrain to please explain why these people weren't there, they were issued summonses after all. And as every man and dog in the street knows, if you're issued a summons, you have to be in the court. So why weren't these people there? Dumb silence. He kept trying to ignore us and kept trying to read the High Court document. But by now, the public, and including about 28 members of Integrity Ireland, but there were other members of the public there, a couple of reporters, but the public started to jeer and applaud at various times as we repeatedly demanded that Judge Kilrain abide by his solemn oath of office and to be fair and just. And we kept reading out the rules and regulations that he has sworn under oath to God to be fair and just. And we told him that he wasn't being so. Then for about an hour, the things started to descend into a form of chaos. And eventually we denounced Judge Kilrain as being engaged in criminal activity, and we told him that as law-abiding citizens we could not go along with what was happening, because to do so would be to be complicit in criminal activity. We told him that he was in contempt of his own court, that he was perverting the course of justice, and that we wanted him to step down and remove himself from the bench. There were chants of out, 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 get off the bench, get off the bench. And this was an automatic response by the public, who were ashamed and appalled at what was going on. So then we had fire alarms go off. No one will tell us who actually set off the fire alarms or who is responsible for causing the fire alarms, apart from a belated explanation that a prisoner apparently was smoking in the cells. This seems very coincidental, because the guards were not going to lay hands on us today. We consider that a bit of a victory. The message seems to be getting out that we are going to fight back, in the sense that we will come back and lodge complaints, formal complaints and charges against anyone who assaults us in the courts. We did not move when the fire alarms came. The fire brigade were called. We asked them to tell us where the fire was, and of course there wasn't one. So that again was another ploy. Now meanwhile, Judge Kilrain exited the courtroom, and he tried to hear a few cases in private. We again pointed out to the office manager, Peter Mooney, that this was illegal. They weren't allowed to hold private hearings. It had to be public. But again, they were completely ignoring us. So the fact is, oh yes, and then probably one of the most important points, we then decided, okay, the judge has abandoned the courtroom. We will vote our own judge into a position temporarily and continue with business. That's what we did. We took a vote, we appointed a judge, and the judge took her seat at the front, and the first thing we asked was for permission to record in the courts. That was granted. We then explained the scenario of what had been going on, and we told her that we wanted to issue a citizen's arrest against Kevin Kilrain for his unconstitutional and unlawful behaviour in the courts. The same against Superintendent Joe McKenna, who we'd asked to initiate, to take jurisdiction for the citizen's arrest of Judge Kilrain, which he also refused to do. Is acting clearly in blatant disregard of the law and the Constitution. We as a group, and being the majority in here and being members of the public, we have voted our own judge to take office right now. Please come up and take your place on the judge's chair, and we will continue with business from there. Thank you.
For the arrest of Detective Joe McKenna, Fintan Murphy, County Registrar, Peter Hanley, Sergeant Peter Hanley.
So basically, history has been made today. First of all, Judge Kilrain, he set 3 precedents. First of all, that the law, the Constitution, court rules and his solemn judge's oath of office mean absolutely nothing. Nothing whatsoever. That he can make or break precedent at will, even if it is illegal, and that the right to private prosecution, and this is the most important thing, guys, because it's one of the few ways that we can get back at the authorities who are wronging us. that the legal right to private prosecution, which is enshrined in common law, even the DPP cannot stop one of these cases going forwards. He cannot do it. You or I or anybody else can go into the court and take action against another person. It cannot be stopped. The only way that it can be stopped is you have the hearing, the judge makes a ruling, and then the opposite side either appeals or the case is thrown out or whatever. But what they've done here, this collusion with people up in the High Court to make this stop this going ahead, is a travesty. It's made a nonsense of the whole of our legal system.
Just to fill in on my part of where I come into this situation. Last night, just getting ready for bed, a knock on the door, and I was served with papers abandoning today's court and that I had to appear in the High Court next Wednesday. And I didn't see a copy of the original order. I was given a brown envelope and that was it. He didn't want to answer any questions. He said he was the messenger and that's all he had to do. So I tried to contact a few members of integrity just to let them know the situation and what had happened in the ways that we try and avoid chaos in the morning. And our phones, we couldn't connect. I got this paperwork and I went through it and I found that it had been changed after being stamped in the High Court, that I was struck out as being the respondent and made a notice party. Now further back in the document it had me down as a notice party and not a respondent. So there was 7 anomalies in the paperwork and I tried to bring them to the judge's attention and that it was a fraudulent document, and on the technicality, I should have been allowed that paper kept out of the court. Just as he did with Stephen, he put a technicality against Stephen earlier on when he was trying to omit or instigate a summons. So he wouldn't allow Stephen, but yet he allowed the other side against me, Fintan Murphy. And it's an absolute joke to think that state solicitors, Warda McAlinn, the Judge Kilrain, Fintan Murphy, Joe McKenna, all the high echelons of so-called law thieves in this county can do the likes of that to an ordinary, down-to-earth, run-of-the-mill citizen that I am from the boglands of Mayo, and I absolutely detest not the people themselves, what they're doing, and especially the people that's holding them in that net of corruption.